All right, well, let's move on. You know, there's trouble at the Detroit Police Department. Chief Ralph Godbee was suspended this week after news of a sex scandal. An internal affairs officer says she was having an affair with the chief, and Godbee is only in this position because the former chief, Warren Evans, was fired in part because he was having an affair with another officer. This is just a mess. I'm going to throw it out there.
It's like the recreation department, I think, instead of the police department.
Oh, no,
but, you know,
that's a bad line.
If there was ever a department that needed strong, credible, competent leadership, it's the police department. That department's a mess. Low morale, you're under a federal consent decree, can't figure out how to get more cops on the street. Crime is the absolute #1 concern of Detroiters. It's pushing people out of the city, and the big administration has allowed this police department to continue to sort of drift and come apart.
Yeah. And I think you call it a sex scandal, but I would almost call it more of a bad judgment scandal.
Well, yeah, it's not about the sex. I mean, frankly, I don't really care who Ralph Godbee wants to do anything with, as long as it's not an employee of his. And that's the standard that's murky here in the city, is that you have all kinds of supervisors who get involved with their underlings. And it's not just in the police department, it's in other places in the city. And I'm not sure why the mayor, when this happened with Warren Evans, and you had the weirdness with Godbee taking the job, why didn't you then say, all right, from here on out, this is just policy. Yeah. You don't do it, and if you do it, we're going to get rid of you. I think he's got to do that now. He's got to make a strong statement and start enforcing it.
We do have to say that we tape MiWeek a couple of hours before it airs, so there is that possibility that something might have happened on Friday afternoon, or a resignation. Right now, I believe it's the Human Resources Department that's doing this investigation. Should it be the police commission that should head this up?
I mean, who knows? As long as somebody's trying to get to the bottom of this, but I'm not sure how much of an investigation you need. He's an at-will employee. The mayor should have moved right off to say, look, we've had enough of this stuff. We're getting rid of him. We're going to bring in a professional. We're going to bring in somebody from outside the department, and we're finally going to get this department under control.
Should we go outside the department? Should there now be some kind of national search? And if they do that, is there money there for a national search?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, the new charter says they've got to conduct a national search. The police commission is going to be in charge of that. I think that's well worth doing. I still think there's an unanswered question about whether somebody who's not from that department and from Detroit can lead that department, given all the dysfunction and things that are going on. I mean, this is a very insular place, and this is the most insular department in city government. I'm not sure how well it'll work to bring somebody in from the outside to straighten this out. You may need an insider to sort of step forward and get it right, and then it would be more sort of accepting.
Godbee was an insider, Evans was an insider.
No, I know.
I mean, we've had a string of insiders who have not been able to get a hold of this department, primarily because they're part of that culture.
Yeah, no, that's right. And I also think there's a real open question about who would come here under these circumstances. Yeah. This is the last year of the mayor's first term. There's no guarantee that he's even going to run for a second term. Would you take that job with the uncertainty about who's going to be your boss?
And if there is turnover here, this would be the third chief that Bing would have.
This will be
fourth or the fourth.
This is going to be his fourth.
Thanks for the math correction.
In 4 years, and I mean, it speaks to the dysfunction there. So I'm not sure if you're sitting in another city and got a job, why would you take the risk of coming?
Unless you just want an enormous challenge, but it's like the Detroit Public Schools, unable to find any sort of credible superintendent because of the magnitude of the job.
All right, and we'll be watching this one as it continues to unfold. Let's move now to the 11th congressional district, in the race for what once was Thaddeus McCotter's seat. Republican candidate Kerry Bentivolio is the front runner. He's been endorsed by the governor. He's kind of nowhere to be found. He really hasn't spoken with the papers yet, though he's going to next week. He hasn't given interviews. He didn't show up to the League of Women Voters candidate forum. Where is Kerry Bentivolio, and do people know enough about him?
Well, people don't know enough about either one of these candidates. You've got two guys out here, Saeed Taj and Kerry Bentivolio, who never dreamed in their wildest dreams that they'd be in this position in October. I mean, they made this chaotic quest to file petitions to run for Congress against a well-entrenched incumbent, and then boom, all of a sudden the incumbent's gone, and they've actually got to run a campaign. Neither one of them has a clue how to do it.
This is a little concerning to me that no one's really heard from Bentivolio. I know Saeed Taj has been at some of the candidate forums, but this is a seat for Congress, Steve.
Right. I mean, I actually talked to Kerry Bentivolio on the phone Thursday for the first time, and I said to him, I said, you know, I can't remember a time that for any congressional seat, a candidate did not at least submit to an interview with the editorial
John Conyers?
board. John Conyers, but well, we know.
But he's
John Conyers.
But he's a known entity.
He's
I mean,
pulled that in recent years.
Yeah, but we don't know. We knew him 20 years ago. We don't know.
Well,
I mean, I talked to John. I talked to John on the phone last week.
But for people who have never heard Kerry Bentivolio's voice, this isn't a state house seat. This is not a mayoral seat.
And the truth is, I mean, I think he's unprepared for the sort of onslaught of questioning and things that you would normally undergo.
And he
as
was
a
treated
candidate.
very roughly in the primary by his Republican opponents, and I think he's a little gun shy to get out there. But I mean, if you're going to run for Congress, you've got to be out there. And there's a special election on the same day that he's very likely to win.
To fill the
one
seat.
way or the other, he might be a congressman for 2 weeks.
One thing I want to set the record straight on, and that he set me straight on yesterday, was he is not a reindeer farmer. He is a reindeer rancher.
Well, he's lost my vote then.
I think people are going to look forward to hearing more from him if he is going to be coming in for the endorsement. And you spoke to Saeed Taj.
Spoke to Saeed Taj. Yeah, I mean, neither one of these guys is ready for prime time. He's a very nice man, but he's not somebody you would expect to be sitting.
I mean, he holds public office, which is at least one test that he's passed. It's but it's a very low level, part-time job. So
it's going to be very difficult to imagine that both parties won't field stronger candidates 2 years around. No matter who wins this, they're going to have a trouble from within their own parties.
One of the other lessons here, I think, is that this is one of the reasons we need reform of the redistricting process. This district was drawn with one person in mind, trying to make it easier for Thad McCotter to win. Of course, now that he's out of the race, it doesn't make sense necessarily the way that it was drawn. We got to come up with a more rational way of.
Yeah, and you got to, and you have to know who you're voting for.